I didn't bring any Pauper decks. I thought we were recording tomorrow, but Will and Jonathan got plenty, so I'm not worried.
Yeah.
I'll just play anything but Flickertron.
Okay.
Anything but Flickertron. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Common Ground Podcast, your favorite podcast where we talk about your favorite format, Pauper. I am your co-host, Cameron Schindler, joined as always by the luxury, Lord of Luxury, Thomas Hammergun. What's poppin'?
I am suffering from the effects of luxury. I indulged with a little bit. Han and I indulged with a little bit too much takeout yesterday. We don't get takeout very often, but we hadn't gotten it in a while, and so we kind of went ham, and we're like, all right, we're gonna get a little dessert too, and it was.
What'd y'all get?
But we got some Chinese food that we had for lunch and dinner, and then we impulse got cheesecake delivered later in the evening.
Ooh, heck yeah!
May or may not have been influenced by other substances, but it was a good time. But we have barely eaten anything today as a result.
Oh. Just suffering through it today.
Just a little. Maybe it was a little too much. Maybe at 32 you can't do that so much anymore. But that's okay.
Don't let your dreams just become dreams. What do they say? Don't let your dreams just be dreams. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I feel that. I had Red Robin yesterday because I'm like, man, I haven't had that in forever. I'm like, oh yeah, because it's incredibly mid.
Yes.
I got a Mai Tai. It was like their twist on a Mai Tai. It was the worst drink, like mixed drink I've ever had in my life. It tasted like somehow at the same time, like just rubbing alcohol, but also just pure simple syrup at the same time. And I'm like, this is disgusting.
That doesn't sound great. I feel like I would not order the Red Robin Mai Tai. Personally.
The Dirty Birds Mai Tai. The burger was actually pretty dank, not gonna lie. But
yeah, their burgers are pretty good as far as burgers go.
I think my favorite mixed drink I ever had was a Mai Tai though, at like some steakhouse we went to in CubeCon last year. Not in CubeCon, that makes it sound funny. In Madison,
well, a steak. I would expect a steakhouse to have a little bit of a higher quality Mai Tai than maybe Red Robin, but
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, for sure. But today, enough of our indulgence of mediocre food. I'm sure your Chinese food was not mediocre. Chinese food is so good. But enough of our indulgence of food.
It was good for mediocre.
Oh, okay. Heck yeah. Dude, sometimes you just need it though.
Yes.
Today we thought we'd take a peeksy doodle at the burn decks?
Mm-hmm.
Question mark?
Decks.
This is something we kind of wanted to do since like post Kuldotha burn or ban, because the deck kind of took a couple twists and turns, and I feel like we're at a good spot now where okay, these are like the two submitted burn decks now. And you'll see people doing some random stuff every now and then, because of course it's Pauper. That's what people do.
Indeed. Quick caveat that we do not have James Hippo Hieronymus with us this week. We had to record on Sunday based on my schedule, so he is unable to make it, but he is with us in our hearts.
And and next week, in the future.
Where
we'll also be recording. Or I'll be recording remote again, at least, because we got 2 back-to-back jobs here in Alabama. But bright side, I get to go hang out with the Alabama folks back-to-back weeks, which will be fun.
There you go.
And playing this week. I'll play tomorrow on their Pauper local, but I don't know if I'll be able to swing it next week if we record Monday next week, or if we can record Tuesday and I can play 2 weekly Pauper events. I'd be pretty happy, but hey, whatever works.
We'll map it out.
Thomas, I'll let you take it away. What happened a long time ago?
Monastery
Swiss beer got
long
later.
You want to go all the way that far back? No. Well, we can start with a banning though. So several months ago we had this big shakeup of bans where Broodscale finally got the can. Deadly Dispute was deemed just too powerful, too efficient, and rightly so, I think. In retrospect. And Kuldotha Rebirth also got banned, which I think was the most surprising of the three for most of the community. It seemed like, but the reasoning was very good. Yeah, the reasoning was, I think, good based on how the PFP explained it in the article that Gavin released alongside the bannings, in that the game 1 win percentage of Kuldotha Rebirth was so much higher than any other deck. It was like in the 65 to 70% range, which is insane for Magic. Like the average, 17 lands is a program that you can use on Arena to track your stats, and like the supposed average Arena player tracking their stats has like a 55% win percentage. So like if your game 1 percentage shoots all the way up to 70 especially in Pauper, where the games can kind of get decided on what's important and what needs to happen like very quickly if you're not careful. And
in a format full of tap lands, really, too.
Right. So it's easy to punish people if they're not ready for the red deck. And game 1, especially if you're not playing with open deck list, really easy to take advantage of that. So Kuldotha Rebirth got the ban, and after that, we kind of had a little bit of I mean, the whole format was rediscovering itself, and I think it was a lot of fun to try and figure out.
It was a really fun period.
Yeah, to try and like figure out where the chips would fall, and the first place the red deck really landed was this kind of shifting back to a pinger burn style of shell, but also still having a bunch of the new aggressive red 1-drops like Clockwork Percussionist and Goblin Tomb Raider, but alongside Kessig Flamebreather, the 2-mana pinger, and things like Lava Dart, maybe like 1 Fire Blast and things like that.
It was a weird spot because some people were trying to figure out how many like Rin's Resolve effects play. Like we'd see people playing 4, 2, we'd see 2 to 8 in those style decks too. So really just a very wide range was going on there.
Yeah, it could go a little bit longer. It traded away the burst potential of Kuldotha Rebirth for more consistency with getting ping damage from your Flame Breather. It would sometimes even play some extra copies, like 2 or 3 copies of Thermo Alchemist, to have even more pingers for a little bit there, which was not uncommon in a dedicated pinger list, but in this like hybrid list, it was only a couple Thermo Alchemists usually. And so that's kind of where we found ourselves. How did you play with or against this deck much? I definitely played against it a bunch. It was alongside Kuldotha, still kind of like a poor matchup for my pinger burn version, just because it was difficult for me to deal with a quick clock on the ground. How did you feel about this version of the deck?
I think I was more familiar with it just because you were a big fan of figuring out this pinger version of a deck. So like I naturally play tested against you quite a bit. Like before recording the pod or whatever, we jammed some games with that or something. So I think I have more experience playing against Pinger Burn than the average Pauper player. Even when Kuldotha was popular, I played against Pinger Burn a bunch because that's kind of like how I was introduced to you in Pauper, was playing with Pinger Burn. So I like the deck. It felt like a good grind, but again, like you said, just during that Kuldotha time, Kuldotha really just was the best version of red. It's kind of funny, like Kuldotha and Glee, similar issues where Glee was by far and away the best combo deck to be doing. And there was no point of exploring other combo decks. And with Kuldotha Rebirth, it was just by far and away the best mono red deck to be doing. So nobody wanted to explore other mono red decks, really. There was no point. It was so fast.
Right. Arguably just the best aggressive deck, period. And so it was kind of also, just like you're saying, in a similar way to Broodscale, like kind of narrowing that focus. It really kind of narrowed the focus. And of course, there are ways you can attack the red deck, just like there are now, like the mono white deck. You can play a ton of like Weather the Storms and things like that. A bunch of a bunch of blue blasts in your like fairies or terror sideboards. Like those plans
Sacred
will still
Cat,
work.
Basilisk Gate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very, very good outside of like needing a bajillion lava darts. Like they're gonna run out of lava darts eventually. So
that is true.
Yeah, but I think the deck was fine. It was a good place, I think, for the format to land on this like being the red deck. But since then, we've seen a pretty major shift into 2 primary versions. Though some people are still playing this first version, this first iteration that came through. But I think there are like,
before we dive into the evolution of that too. I just want to throw out, like, I really liked I think I still have this deck put together in paper too, funny enough, the mono red goblins deck, like right after Kuldotha banned. People were messing around with that too, and it was fun. It felt really, really explosive, but it definitely felt like a mono red deck of old, where once you were out of gas, and your way to recoup card advantage was top decking one of your 2 Fire Blast or top decking Lethal. It was really a mono red deck of old where you didn't have any card advantage. You played off top your library, you played with your hand, count the damage in your hand, you better hope it's a high number.
Right. I think that's why we see things like Ren's Resolve, the Reckless Impulse, and other draw 2 effects that we'll get to in a little bit, like really kind of form as the core of the card advantage for these decks, and the points of interaction that the blue decks are really interested in actually interacting with to gain the advantage against the red deck as well, rather than just like get distracted by a bunch of creatures on the ground. Like, no, you gotta counter the draw 2s, and then you can keep up with their creatures in some other ways. So definitely a very similar
play pattern we see in a lot of Pauper decks is counter the draw 2s, you know.
Yes.
And then that goblins deck could not beat a single piece of interaction, could not beat Weatherstorm, could not beat a board wipe. No. It was very fragile. But not this evolution of the Pinger Burn, what do we got now?
So we've kind of split into 2 versions, and they're both very, very sweet decks. So the first version that we had post Kuldotha Rebirth ban, like we said, it's kind of a hybrid of this aggressive creature slanted burn deck versus the Pinger Burn deck. And so we've taken this split now with Red Black Madness had been iterating with when Grab the Prize was released, when Sneaky Snacker was released, like within the last, I mean, a little over a year for Sneaky Snacker now, and within the last several months, almost a year for Grab the Prize. That really increased the quality. Grab the Prize especially increased the quality of draw 2s for a burn style deck. Just tacking on that extra 2 damage for discarding something you already want to discard is huge game for your draw 2 spell. So Grab the Prize, I think, became a very attractive card to build around in this shell. So then it also helped you wanted to discard stuff. So Sneaky Snacker got involved with the Red Black Madness deck as well. And then people started splintering off and thinking, well, can we just make a mono red version of this? Because there was also like the mono red dredge list, I think was popping up around this time. And so people were really getting creative with just mountains of like just all the weird things you can do in Pauper without actually needing to cast things for red mana in your mono red deck. Like, you know, flashing back a Dread Return that you Faithless Looting discarded into your yard to get the Lotlet Giant, and like all of that sort of stuff. I think my feeling is that also kind of inspired this mono red madness version that we have, that is much, much closer to just like classic Pinger Burn than the like Kuldotha Rebirth deck or the hybrid synthesizer deck that popped up after it. And we have things like Guttersnipe like coming out of nowhere seemingly, and just finally having a really, really nice home in this shell. And like, you know, some folks like Calicai's has messed around with Guttersnipe in like storm shells with like Manamorphose storm decks and things like that. And it's definitely can have a home there and be a solid win condition. But just as an extra 2 damage on all of your burn spells, on top of having Flame Breather, on top of having pressure from Sneaky Snackers, on top of just your burn spells being burn spells in general, I think this mono red madness deck is super, super sick, super clean, really fast, and I really would love an opportunity to play it sometime soon.
Yeah, you said it. It kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know if Teasdale made the list, but I saw him playing it on YouTube. On the YouTube video, like really, I think
Teasdale
really
was involved. Yeah.
So it just shows again that Pauper's like, man, I feel like there's not a lot of incentive to go against the grain in Pauper. Like if there was a little bit more spotlight on Pauper, I think people would try a little bit harder and brew some new decks and try to really push the boundaries of the format. But when you're just kind of like grinding challenges and making your means that way, there's not a big incentive to try to break the format. But every now and again we get like the content creators, Krablinsky, Cali guys, Teasdale, they'll do something for content, it turns out like, hey, this is pretty good, and they'll do well with it. And I feel there's a lot of Xerox copy and paste in the Pauper challenges. So you'll see one
for sure.
mono red list do really well. And like there'll be slight changes, but not like sweeping changes. But again, like every now and then we get like a content creator like Teasdale do really well with this. And now this is like the stock list. Like we saw the same thing with the black-green fog deck with Kerblinski championing that and making that. Now that's just a staple of the format. And now with this mono red madness deck, it's a new staple of the format. It's one of the pillar burn decks, which is really cool. I love when we get a whole new deck just burves into our format like this. And plus playing Guttersnipe, that's so sick.
Yeah, Guttersnipe is sick. Guttersnipe is like one of the first cards I ever built around when I first started back in 2012. Like just such a sick card. And to have it here, to have gotten the downshift in Commander Masters, pretty sick to have access to it here. That's
got to be a like shared Magic experience. A new player looks at Guttersnipe and thinks, "Wow, that card's sick." Because I did the same thing. You look at it, and it's like, "Wow, I'm gonna cast so many spells." I mean, you see like Manamorphose and and then your brain starts turning.
Yeah, this deck is really, really sick. We got to see it most recently locally. Our friend Holden, friend of the pod, she top-8'd the second Common Ground Cup with this Mono Red Madness deck. And we got to see it on coverage a little bit against Anna in the quarterfinals. And I believe Holden
really
took down game 2 of that set. And yeah, really, really close game, which traditionally you would think would almost be a slam dunk for Coggates. But there was a lot going on back and forth. And it was really, really, like I said earlier, like the lava darts for Sacred Cats and just being able to, time things out. When do you play? Do you wait? Like, how long are you waiting before you commit your Guttersnipe and then fire off a bunch of spells all at once? Like, that's one of the reasons I really like Highway Robbery in this list, because you can plot it and then get your pinger down and cast that for free, and then cast another couple things and sack a mountain to lava dart, sack a couple mountains to fire blast, and you could just win the game out of nowhere with this deck.
Oh, I agree. With the play patterns of this deck, I'm sure it's a lot of matchup dependent, but are you slamming Guttersnipe on turn 3 a lot of the times if you're playing against like Jund Wildfires or something, or do you think you're sandbagging those a little bit more?
I think more often than not, you're sandbagging them. I was planning on playing this for an event this weekend that I wasn't able to make at the end of the day. But I was planning on playing this deck, and I was texting with Holden and just asking her a bunch of questions and asking him some advice on some, like, I was going to do my, I'll throw one End the Festivities in the main. I'll put one of the Searing Blazes in the main and change something out in the sideboard. Get some Graveyard Hate in the sideboard. Like I was going to change up some things here and there. A very, very Thomas Gunn approach to playing a burn deck here with just a couple random one-ups. But something that she said along the lines was exactly that of like Guttersnipe is very often like a turn 5+ play where you've developed some stuff and you just kind of need that last big shove to close the door. And you can commit. Shove. It is a big shove. You can commit Guttersnipe and cast 2 or 3, maybe even 4 other spells, depending on how much mana you have or how many free spells you have access to. If you have snackers that can attack as well. So you usually, my gut says that you do want to wait until you have some things set and you've whittled your opponent down a little bit before you actually close the door with Guttersnipe. But I imagine that there are matchups where you can just put Guttersnipe in play and it probably won't die, and then you just untap and take them out on turn 4 potentially, like maybe against something like Walls or it depends on the draw from Boggles. If Boggles has a lifelink draw, then it can be more difficult against Fog for sure. I mean, that's what Zach was saying in the episode last week of like Mono Red Madness might be the worst matchup, and so something like Guttersnipe, if you don't have the Crypt Rats or something to just take it out right away, then which is difficult to do that early too. So, yeah, almost impossible, I would say, outside of if you have a couple like cast downs or snuff outs or something. But it depends on the list.
Snuff out against this deck too, icky. Yeah, I don't want to be snuffing out against this deck with 3 Fire Blast.
No, you want to snuff. Yeah, you want to snuff out Guttersnipe, and in response, with snuff out on the stack, I'll just like kill you with Guttersnipe. Oh, thanks for getting me 20% of the way there.
Thanks for the pay for. Yeah, exactly. Looking at the list too, this has 3 Fire Blasts, 4 Lava Darts, so that's 10 lands you can sacrifice, which is more than half your lands, which I think is just hilarious. Yeah. Like an 18 land deck where you kind of want to be hitting your land drops quite a bit, but hey, that's what the 4 Highway Robbery, 4 Grab Prize, 4 Faithless Lootings are for.
And I think that 18 is like medium to high for the general vibes of the burn deck in Pauper. I was playing up to 19 at times with my like 4 Fire Blast, like Demand Answers, Synthesizer sort of style of deck, just to make sure that I was not going to miss my land drops. And because you have things like Epicure, the blood token, you can filter away extra lands if you draw them. So I think 18 feels really good for this deck. I think that's totally fine. But you are right. There are some points where, like we saw on coverage actually from the cup, that Holden got stuck on 2 or 3 lands for a little bit of time, and even though this is like a cheap burn deck, you still want to make your land drops, and you still want to like hit your draw 2s and continue to keep the momentum going. That's one of the nice things about having so many draw spells between Faithless Looting, Grab the Prize, Highway Robbery, blood tokens off of Voldaren Epicure. You just have a lot of ways to churn through your deck and just keep
once
the
your
pressure
foot's on
going.
the gas.
Exactly.
Once your foot's on the gas, you're going fast with this for sure. A little different from the Kuldotha style. We keep referring back to this, but this deck doesn't have like the super nut start where it's like, oh my gosh, it's turn 3 and I'm almost dead, like from Kuldotha when they go, Kuldotha bushwhack you. Like, this doesn't have an explosiveness, but some of that inevitability that the Rakdos Madness deck has mixed with explosiveness with Guttersnipe, Fire Blast, Lava Dart, you're dead.
Exactly.
But like you said, that's more of a turn 3 or turn 4 or 5 play, not necessary.
Well, let me walk through a potential turn 3 win. So you go turn 1. Let's say, I'm thinking if you want to Epicure here, but you probably just Lightning Bolt if it's turn 1. So Lightning Bolt on 1 for 3. Though you could, Epicure is also 3 damage. So I'm trying to think of how to save it to get the pings. Okay, so Epicure is also 3 damage in this instance. So let's start with Epicure. Epicure on turn 1 deals 1 damage, go to 19. Turn 2, play Flame Breather. Epicure attacks, put your opponent to 18. Turn 3, now you go, let's see, 1 Lava Dart is 4 damage, so that's better than 1 Bolt. So we want Bolt, Lava Dart, Fire Blast. So that's the most we can do with 3 lands. So that's a ping each. So Bolt, Lava Dart, Fire Blast. That's 5 damage from the Flame Breather. That's to 13. 2 bolts is 6 to 7. The 2 Lava Darts, it gets you to 5. Fire Blast gets you to 1, and both of your creatures are attacking, so that's -1. So that is a turn 3 kill that does not seem that crazy to put together.
How'd you cast 2 bolts and 2 Lava Darts? Oh, you played.
Because you have 3 mountains. Yeah, your 3 lands. Yep.
Never mind. I'm like,
okay.
Wait,
so it can just win the game like that sometimes. Like you just here's everything. You're dead. Which is something that I would do. I did from time to time with my version of the Pinger Burn deck with that still played Synthesizer, and like I did Demand Answers as my draw 2 of choice because it could sacrifice the Synthesizer and things like that. It's kind of playing a similar game plan of stick your Pinger. If your Pinger lives, your opponent's going to die very, very quickly. And if not, then you have plenty of gas to churn through and keep stuff going. Snackers can keep coming back. There's a
reason they never put Fire Blast in Modern. Very, very powerful card.
It is very powerful.
0 mana deal 4 it's pretty gross.
I mean, but you have to sack 2 lands. There's cost.
That doesn't matter. Yeah, there's a cost.
Is this Wheel of Fortune?
Yeah, exactly. It is just Wheel of Fortune. You go to game 2, you draw your new 7.
Yeah,
you'll draw first. Whatever. Who cares? Yeah. You'll be on the draw that one. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on this version?
I love this deck. We can quickly talk about the sideboards. The sideboards have like mostly coalesced into playing up to 8 Red Blast with a full potentially 7 to 8 of the Red Blast in some combination of Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast. Usually up to 4 Searing Blaze, which is the red instant. It deals 1 damage to a creature and 1 damage to the creature's controller, but if landfall has triggered, it's 3 and 3, which is just a really great way to have a pretty reasonable removal spell against like small to medium-sized creatures that doesn't sacrifice it still being a burn spell, which is really, really important because you don't have a ton of creatures that are attacking here outside of your sneaky snackers for the most part. So unlike the other versions of the red decks where you just have a bunch of 1 mana, 2 power creatures just kind of like getting in over the first few turns and kind of accruing value that way, if you're using your burn spells as removal spells, it's potentially going to slow down your clock a lot. So the Searing Blazes are really there to make sure you're continuing your momentum and still removing threats. And I think being able to kill things for 3 damage is really particularly good against mono white, because then it can kill Core Skyfisher and it can kill Pack Beast and Chocomog. So being able to kill 3 toughness is really important for like some specific matchups, I think. And then some lists are playing some Graveyard Hate, like the list I'm looking at right now that took 3rd place in the Showcase qualifier that happened this past weekend. They chose their last 3 slots as 3 Tormod's Crypt, which I think is totally fine. I was going to play a couple of Fairy Macabres. People are also playing around with Smash to Smithereens. We see a lot, like 3 to 4 copies of Smash to Smithereens as well. You could play Cast in the Fire.
I want to point out though on Moto that Fairy Macabre not as important because the spy decks don't have the the counter target activated ability in their sideboard from Legends, because that card doesn't exist on Moto.
Oh, Rust.
I don't even think the Walls version is playing that. Yeah, I don't think Moto has Rust, so it's like a little less important on
for
Moto challenges, which is a little weird.
Yeah, my theory behind it was I wanted, if I was playing and I was playing against Spy or some other graveyard combo deck, I want them to feel like they can go for it rather than know that, like, if there's a Tormod's Crypt sitting in play, like, yes, the Tormod's Crypt, it gets you a damage off the Kessig Flamebreather, like, it triggers a ping because it's non-creature spell. That's fine. But then it's sitting there and they can just, like, Masked Vandal it away,
play or around it.
They can play around it or do something. But if I'm sitting with Fairy Macabre in my hand for free at any time, then they might go for it, and I can just kind of get them. Because I think that you can race them pretty well anyway, I feel like.
If they see the Tormod's Crypt, they can just try to play the Lot-Lift Giant game. Or play the cast their creature spells game if they just see the Tormod's Crypt. That makes sense.
Yeah. And you could argue that, Tormod's Crypt is better against Terror, but I don't think you want to mess with the graveyard against Terror anyway. You just bring in 8 Red Blasts and call it a day.
Yeah, I agree. You got other cards for that matchup, definitely.
Yeah,
you'll fight that deck in a different way.
Yeah.
And they'll do the same.
The 8 best cards against the deck. Let's just bring those.
It's hilarious. They just do the same thing against you,
Right, exactly. So, which I think is one reason why these lists are playing as many Red Blasts as they are. In the past, I've always felt like the blue matchup was really not that hard, whether it was Fairies or Terror. And so I was only ever playing in paper just at one playset of Red Elemental Blast, no Pyroblast. But I think that those numbers have gone up because the blue decks have gone up on their numbers of blue blasts. Like a lot of the Terror lists, if they're following Discovern's lead, then they are playing 7 to 8 blue blasts as well. So I think you just need to kind of match them in their plan more than that. Like, you really need that many, but it's because you need them because your opponents are sideboarding even more now. I think that's my gut feeling. I could be wrong about that, but that's kind of the vibe I get.
What do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of like this particular red deck? We've already mentioned that we saw Holden showcase the deck very well on coverage playing against Anna, where she played against Coggates, and normally we would see the mono red deck kind of fold to Coggates because the Basilisk Gate and Sacred Cat or whatever lifelink, there's just so much lifelink to keep up with for the mono red deck. But we saw this deck just continue to grind and put up a really, really good fight, winning game 2, and I think it was game 3 or game 1 that was a nail biter as well. That could have went either way. But so that's like a good matchup compared to normally a bad matchup with other red decks. But maybe in theory, I think you're a little weaker to combo decks where you're not as explosive, and you can kind of give them that you're not killing on turn 3 very often with this deck, or maybe even turn 4, but where you can kind of give them that turn 4 to combo you out, you know? It's definitely a race. It matters a lot who's probably on the play in these combo matchups.
I agree. I do think that these red decks as they exist, like without Kuldotha Rebirth, I do think that they are a little bit more susceptible to the combo decks, which is one of the reasons why I was going to make sure I had some free graveyard interaction packed with me to play, just to handle that sort of stuff. Having Lightning Bolt and Fiery Temper kind of being your only removal spells. I mean, Lava Dart kills some things too, but in terms of the relevant sizing, and then potentially Searing Blazes out of the board, something like Walls or Elves could potentially get out of hand, especially Elves if you're unable to deal with a Well-Wisher and they just start gaining a bunch of life, and can kind of get out of range. So I think that there is some risk there. I also think that Weather the Storm is a lot more powerful against a burn-based red deck than it is against a creature-based red deck, because you have to cast a bunch of spells to get your opponent dead. So you have to be really, really careful when playing around, or really, really careful to play around Weather the Storm, because it's so much better against you than it is against a bunch of Clockwork Percussionists and Goblin Tomb Raiders. So
yeah,
that is
more than likely the creature deck already deployed their board.
Exactly. Like that's the damage. It's already in play. They don't need to cast spells. So when you need to cast spells to get your opponent dead, that's where Weather the Storm really shines. And so you have to be very, very careful. Like I have lost top 8 matches at our locals in the past because I went for Fire Blast too soon, and then I got by a Weather the Storm. And if I had just waited, because I have this Fire Blast in hand, my opponent's at 4, I can just sit there and wait. So you learn some patience to coil and strike type of game plan, rather than just like dump your hand all out. Once you know your opponent's on Weather the Storm,
knowing when to go for it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to kind of pick your spots, ping them down a little bit over time, get a couple chip attacks in with your snackers and even your flame breathers and epicures. I mean, Guttersnipe can turn sideways if you really need it to, but I doubt that's happening a lot of the time, honestly. Yeah, I think Weather the Storm is the biggest enemy of a deck like this, but I think there are ways to play around it as long as you're careful.
Oh, agree. Big time. The other red deck, do you got any other thoughts on this?
No, let's move it right along. Tell us about this. I think it's slightly newer, all told, or it feels like it's developed more recently than Mono Red Madness.
I feel like this was one of the. Let me pull up my phone real quick. I just had it. I feel like this was one of like the first steps. Like it took a minute to solidify. We're talking about the Mono Red Rally.
Yeah.
I feel like this is something that's kind of we saw pretty early after Kuldotha Burn, but people were just playing around different versions of this. But this is still playing the 4 Goblin Bushwhackers, but no more Kuldotha, unfortunately. You are still playing 4 Clockwork Percussionists, 4 Goblin Tomb Raiders, 4 Vigilant Epicures, but the new card, new in quotes, that they're playing are 4 Burning-Tree Emissary, so just having an explosive, play 1 or 2 of these into a Percussionist or a Rally at the Hornburg. You're playing 4 of those, which is a sorcery from Lord of the Rings. It's 1 and a red. Make 2/1/1. Are they red human creature tokens?
They're white.
And they gain haste until in a turn. They're white. Of course they are. Create 2/1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. Humans control, gain haste till in a turn. Sorry, I was trying to recall it while I was loading.
No, you're good.
The Wi-Fi here of this hotel is not very quick. And then you're playing your around 4 Ren's Resolves effect, give or take. But then a little bit of burn too to finish them off. 4 Galvanic Blast, 4 Lightning Bolts. So you're still playing that artifact package again with the Goblin Tomb Raider, the Percussionist, the 4 Experimental Synthesizers, and the 4 Great Furnace.
Yeah.
Kind of like one of the big things, though. This deck doesn't have a way of sacking Experimental Synthesizer beside itself.
I mean, that's totally fine. I was playing with that, like, even before Demand Answers entered my version of the burn deck. I was still just paying 3 mana, make a 2/2, and flip a card. If the game goes long,
it is good
it's
enough,
totally fine sometimes.
That's kind of, I agree. It is kind of like just what you need to once you're flooded out. And again, the biggest thing you can hit off your deck is 2. So if it's turn 5 and you're like, okay, I gotta flip a card, you're gonna cast whatever you get, and it's not terrible. You make one of those and you go Goblin Bushwhacker, and now you're 3/2 S ace, or now your 2/2's a 3/2 with ace. There you go. But the ideal play pattern of its deck is for sure like turn 1, ideally, Great Furnace and the Goblin Tomb Raider. Get in there with your Goblin Guide while you can. Turn 2, Burning-Tree, Bushwhacker, or Burning-Tree, Rally, next turn Bushwhacker them. Like, just, again, you're doing this going wide. You're doing your best Kuldotha impression. It's just you don't have the efficiency of the one card making 3 tokens anymore.
Right. This is definitely kind of more of a spiritual successor to the old Kuldotha Rebirth deck than the Madness Burn deck is, for sure.
Oh, definitely.
I do want to say one awkward thing that does come up with this deck is that when Burning-Tree Emissary enters, it adds red-green to your mana pool, which is really good with chaining emissaries and then chaining that.
Forget this.
Yeah, chaining that into Rally or Ren's Resolve, but you can only do it on turn 3 or later if you want to go emissary into Bushwhacker, because you're not going to be able to use that green mana to kick the Bushwhacker. So sometimes
you do need
you're good.
That Bushwhacker.
Sometimes I've seen some lists play a couple copies of Ginger Brute, which is the single mana colorless 1/1 hasty little gingerbread artifact creature from Throne of Eldraine. I love this little guy. He's really powerful when you put a hammer on him.
Yeah.
But mostly because it's a 1 mana hasty threat that you can cast with that green mana from the Burning-Tree Emissary, so that you can play a red 1-drop and another 1-drop off of the green mana sometimes. So people are like, getting creative with that as well. But the real big thing is that the Rally at the Hornburg, like, not only making the tokens, but giving all your humans haste is really the big kick here, because the Burning-Tree Emissary is a human. So it's actually the only actual human creature in the list outside of the tokens. So it's really just that's extra bit of trinkety text to make sure your emissaries can get in right away. But yeah, you're absolutely right that it can also just do Bushwhacker stuff. And my guess would be that the Bushwhacker play happens a little bit later in the game than it did with Kuldotha, because you want to build up your board. It's going to take a little bit longer to build up your board than it did with like Kuldotha. I mean, 1 mana, here's 3 dudes. So,
man, I think a lot of the times the good Kuldotha player, especially post board, where very much choosing their spots where they want a Kuldotha. It's okay, I can Kuldotha them right now, but then I'm out of gas. I'm gonna wait like 1 more turn and play 2 more creatures, and then just put them to 3 and whatever I draw off the top of my deck's lethal now.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a funny Rally at the Hornburg story I want to jump in here real quick with. So this is the other night. We're at your place playing your Peasant Cube, and I win my first round. I have this like blue-green value flash deck. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't remember Rally your deck. Yeah.
And I get paired against our friend Ryan, and he's got this Boros aggro deck. He's one of a few Boros aggro decks at that table. And we go through the turn for a little bit, and at one point I had bounced a Seeker of the Way back to his hand, and then like a couple turns later, the next turn he didn't redeploy the Seeker of the Way, and I was like, oh, okay, yep. And he had cast a Rally at the Hornburg earlier, and he gets to pick up the Rally at the Hornburg out of his graveyard to put it back in his hand, and I had bounced the Seeker of the Way back to his hand, and I'm like looking at the best I can do on my turn, and I'm doing the math, and I'm like, Ryan, Seeker of the Way is a human, right? And he's like, yep. And I was like, we're going to game 2. Because it was going to be a 3/3 with lifelink and haste from the Rally at the Hornburg. Yeah.
That is sick.
So like, hey, if anyone wants to make a Boros deck with Rally at the Hornburg and Seeker of the Way, and
Burning-Tree series. You can't really go Burning-Tree Seeker though. That'd be kind of tough. But hey.
No, we got Manamorphose in here now.
Oh, or you could just play Gates, Just get your mana really fixed in there.
Opponent laughs in Writhing Chrysalis.
Yeah, exactly. I love the design of that card a lot. That it just doesn't make 2 tokens with haste, but it gives all your humans haste because you get to do like really cool stuff like the Burning Tree, because you kind of have to have the nuts to go Burning Tree. Anything above 1 Burning Tree into this is kind of like, okay, well, whatever, They just kind of lucked me out that time versus like Kuldotha, where it felt very, very easy to get a Kuldotha Bushwhack going. It's just
Kuldotha. This definitely takes a little bit more work to put together.
Yeah, and more luck too. Just to have multiple Burning-Tree Emissaries in your hand.
Right.
But it's sick when you get to play 3 of them.
Oh yeah, when you get the nuts and you just slam for 8 on turn 2, that's pretty nuts.
That's sick.
Yeah. I will say this deck is also much closer to a Kuldotha Rebirth, more of a direct successor, because it's also playing the artifact package. As you mentioned, Cameron, we've got Clockwork Percussionist, Tomb Raider cares about artifacts, Epicure makes an artifact, we have Galvanic Blasts in this version of the deck, Synthesizers, and 4 Great Furnace as 4 of your 18 lands as well. So that's why we only see usually 1 or 2 Fire Blast in this version, because Great Furnace and Fire Blast don't really play well together. But this is definitely also kind of doing the artifact thing for Tomb Raider and Galvanic Blast as well.
Yeah, for sure. Galvanic Blast is a very powerful magic card, and we've seen even the trek back a little bit. We've even seen the I cannot think of that Rakdos Madness burn decks going back from the Chain Lightnings to Galvanic Blast. Just 1 mana, 4 damage. Yeah. It's hard to beat.
That's very good. I mean, that's what folks were trying to convince me for the longest time of it's 1 mana for 4 damage instead of 0 mana, sacrifice 2 of your lands for 4 damage. And I'm like, yeah, but it's 0 mana. And they're like, no, Thomas. And I'm like, but it's free. And it's not free. I'm like, stop bullying me.
Yeah, it's not free when you hit it off your Rinse Resolve, when you have 2 lands or 3 lands in play and you're like, oh, what am I doing now? Am I doing this? All right.
I've done it. I've done it sometimes. Sometimes you just got to do it, man.
I love the games where you Fire Blast something, you Fire Blast a creature and you end up winning that game. And it's just yes.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite.
You gotta do.
But why would somebody play this deck over the mono red Guttersnipe burn deck?
So I think there's some merit in the Weather the Storm argument that we talked about with the Madness Burn deck, is that this is not quite as weak to things like Weather the Storm. It's certainly still going to be good against you, but you're much more of a creature-based deck, so you're going to have a little bit of an easier time against it once you've established a board.
You open yourself up more to the sweepers, though, too, doing this.
You do, yeah. That is the trade-off, for sure, where Breath Weapons and Drown in Sorrows are going to be a little bit better against you here than they certainly would be against the Madness deck. But I think that it really comes down... I think part of it is just playstyle, too. What you feel you enjoy, what version. Because I think that both of these decks are perfectly viable. I think, I would lean more towards the Madness Burn deck because I like the burn style. I like Fire Blast. I like Lava Dart. It's not really a surprise. But I also like turning dudes sideways and building up a board. And I think that there are some ways where... the combination of Synthesizer, Rens Resolved, Percussionist, Epicure, these are all cards that replace themselves or better. And so the draw twos in Madness Burn also require you to discard a card, and sometimes you're not always discarding a Lava Dart or a Faithless Looting or a Sneaky Snacker, or these are much more face up, here's some value, whereas the Madness Burn, sometimes you have to work a little bit to eke out some value. So this is just kind of more raw cardboard in a way, more rectangles. So and there's that sort of value proposition to think about.
Hell of a card.
Yeah, Bushwhacker's still very, 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 very powerful card. So that's kind of your kill them out of nowhere with 1 or 2 spells, which also kind of insulates you against Weather the Storm in a way, as opposed to kill you with 4 or 5 spells in a row. So
correct. And there's those turns where you think they're out of gas and they hit the nuts off a Rinse Resolve. They hit it's late in the game, so they have enough to Burning Tree into a Bushwhacker, and they already had 2 creatures on board, and that's enough to get them over the finish line. That was a pretty common play pattern when I played Kuldotha. It was just you randomly just hit the Bushwhacker, and you're like, all right, sick, late game, but just do it while I can.
I think it's for people who are looking to scratch the Kuldotha itch without Kuldotha being here. And the tools, I think, are still good. So
to turn stuff sideways, it is fun turning stuff sideways. It is kind of a flavor. I kind of like what you put. Do you want to like turn your creature sideways, or do you want to sack 2 mountains and fire blast somebody and trigger Guttersnipe, trigger Kessig Flame Breather? I think it is really a matter of preference. And the mono red Madness burn deck is like kind of something new. It is similar to the black red one, but with the Guttersnipe aspect, and mono red, but still playing with Sneaker Snackers and the Pinger stuff. It is like kind of this mixture of 2 Pauper decks that we've seen before into something new. So it's definitely has that new car smell to it that people probably want to test it out more and play it a bit more.
Yeah, and it's been doing well. It's been putting up results. It's in almost at least one copy in almost every top 8 of challenges over the last several weeks. When I was like going back and looking through lists, people are even still innovating. It's, you know, it might seem like a small thing, but people are trimming down to 2 Faithless Lootings and adding in a couple more, like a couple Chain Lightnings to get a little bit more burn. And maybe sometimes the Faithless Lootings are a little awkward, and because they have flashback, you kind of already have more copies of them. Like one copy is technically 2. So people are kind of playing around with that. I was potentially going to trim a Guttersnipe as well, because I feel like the deck is strong enough that it doesn't always need that burst damage at the end, and sometimes you're going to trim them anyway.
4 to 3 or 3 to 2, because I've seen
from 3 to 2.
Already.
Yeah. I don't think you want 4 Guttersnipe. That feels like overkill. No, and that Holden agreed with that as well.
Clunky. Yeah, it's extremely clunky. The card's super cool though. Mm-hmm. No, a big agree. And I just want to like reiterate on the fact that, again, this deck came out of nowhere from a content creator, Teasdale. I can't remember if they brewed it or not, but say they picked it up, they championed it. They kind of put on a spotlight, did well with it, and this deck really came out of nowhere. It just shows that this happens quite a bit of Pauper, and don't be afraid to innovate or try something new.
I got to tell you, the Burning-Tree Emissary needing something to do with the green mana kind of has me thinking if there's like a red-green version of this list.
Rancor?
It's Rancor is interesting. There's a single, like, I think it's like Might of the Masses or something. It's like single mana. It's a single green mana for +1/+1 for each creature you control, and like that could be pretty powerful. You'll have to do it before you go to combat. So it's like it's face up. But if you're building up a board,
Pauper needs fast lands, but for only red colors. We really do.
Why not any of the other colors?
They don't deserve them. They don't need them. But the red deck, like, cause man, I'm just like, cause like, imagine how good it would be if we had some untapped red-green duels. That deck that Derek played in the first Common Ground Cup, the red-green Madness deck.
Yeah.
That deck looks sick. Yeah, like the root wallas and stuff, but
something like that. But maybe it could be a little bit more of a go wide, aggressive plan with like Bushwhackers and Burning-Tree Emissary, but could potentially make use of the green mana. And maybe there are some humans in green that would benefit from Rally at the Hornburg granting haste. I don't know. I'll have to do some digging.
Because my problem is just I think about this deck without.
Oh, Masked Vandal. Masked Vandal's a human.
It is a human, also merfolk. But my problem is I'm like, okay, if I just like play the red-green duel, okay, I could just play the gates. Well, I might as well play Basilisk Gate. Well, you know what's good? Basilisk Gate, Sacred Cat. All right, now we're Naya. I should add a Writhing Chrysalis. I
just always go down this route, huh?
I end up turning into just a Basilisk Gate mid-range deck somehow. It's like, what happened? And with this new Heapgate card, now that it got errated the filter for mana for 1 mana.
That's right. I don't know if folks have heard about this.
I swear to God, dude, this is the what do they call it? Mandela effect for me.
Yeah.
Like, I swear to God, that never said that. They IRL errated it, and everybody's gaslighting me.
I mean, I never looked into it that deeply personally, so.
Yeah, me neither. Turns out. Any closing thoughts on the red deck at all?
I mean, I think that there is some. I mean, like, what about the metagame where we're at right now? Like, the mono red Madness deck is definitely seeing play. It's having a reasonable amount of success. I think that the metagame right now is very blue heavy and like black green mid-rangey control-y heavy, like between wildfires and like fog and gardens and like that sort of stuff.
It does feel a little hostile right now to the mono red deck. Just a lot of combo decks that just really don't care about their life totals unless you're killing them before turn 3 or before turn 4. That could be a little hostile to mono red decks because you just really got to have your nuts draw. And once you're mulliganing, you need 7 cards for your nut draw or 6 cards for your nut draw, you know?
Well, I think this is a good example of a deck that is good against a combo deck, like specifically High Tide, because you have all of these red blasts. I think that could potentially be another reason why this deck is playing all 8 red blasts, because it has the clock to, like, the clock plus disruption argument that folks have been making of, like, this is how you beat High Tide. Like, you have to have a clock and you have to be able to disrupt things at the right times.
Oh, I bet.
And having a pile of red blasts
and High Tide.
Right. Like, I think that against something like that, it's definitely well positioned, but against something like Walls or Combo Elves or Spy or Cycling Storm, if the Cycling Storm pilot knows what they're doing, but I think that those are difficult. Right. But even against stuff like Familiars and Coggates, I think are traditionally poor matchups. Mostly the white decks are going to be a struggle, and the white decks are not like the most represented right now, but they are around. And especially in paper, you will run into them because people enjoy playing these decks, and maybe they don't care what's doing well online. They're just going to play a good deck that they know how to play and have fun playing. And if you run in against those white decks, the life gain's going to get you, the prismatic strands are going to get you. Like you said, Sacred Cat with Gates is going to be really, really good. There's a lot
Wildfires
going
decks
on.
too being very, very popular. Like John Wildfires, so Card Clan Shaman, Tox Analysis, not great for you if you're committing to 3 mana for a Guttersnipe and they're untap it and killing your board before you take advantage of it, or you kind of got to set up one of those turns where you Guttersnipe and can combo on top of them.
That is one spot where Guttersnipe I think does shine, because you can ideally the John Wildfire deck taps out a lot, and so you can get to a spot where they're like, all right, Chrysalis, Lembus, go, and maybe there's a refurbished familiar in play, who knows, and they just like tap out for a bunch of stuff, and then you just play Guttersnipe and just burn them out.
They only have to sacrifice 2 artifacts, so that's the problem of killing your Guttersnipe with triggers on a stack. I guess, but that is a weird game of chicken, because if they decide to sacrifice 2 more artifacts, you're like, okay, that doesn't stop me from casting more spells.
Right.
Like, all your burn spells are instants, so yeah.
And even then, I think the Madness deck is better than the Rally deck against Card Clan Shaman, just because they're not going to gain as much life, because there's less creatures to kill. Jund Wildfires was actually a matchup that Holden said you just don't sideboard anything. The main deck is good enough. You're just gonna crush them if you have the right draw. Yeah. So
that's awesome,
because they just spend so much time setting up, and unless they have unless they're sitting on the Weather the Storm, or they're able to develop a good Chrysalis, or like you said, the Card Clan Shaman plus Toxin Analysis setup, outside of those specific things, I think you're just going to be able to out aggro them if you play your cards right. If you play your cards right, you might get there just fine. But I thought that was a good indication of how that matchup goes when Holden told me that there's no sideboarding that happens, and I don't know if it's just because of the specific sideboard that she had, but yeah, and she played against Jund a bunch and only lost once in the Swiss, so So
I trust her experience on that.
Yeah,
definitely. The mono blue decks, like, I get it, it's Fae. It can go either way. They can. Fae can do it to a lot of decks where they stay ahead, really, and it's just hard to keep up with that they're spell stuttering the right things, and it seems like they always have it, kind of thing. Mono blue terror, same thing. If they have the terror and they draw more blasts than you, that can be really difficult.
Yeah,
I feel like both those matchups can be a matchup of who drew / aligned their blast better.
Yes, I like the phrase "who aligned it better." That's really, really true. Because if you, like, the common knowledge has been that you want to blue blast the draw 2s. So then from the burn side, I would have to talk with some folks, because I haven't played from the burn side in a while, at least with this specific list, of like, I would need to think about it from playing Terror or from playing Fairies of like, okay, what would actually be disastrous to have red blasted? Obviously a Terror, like an actual 5, a Terror or a Delver, just getting a creature out of the way and being able to still like attack in with snackers. But your sneaky snackers can deal with a flip Delver. You can just block.
Oh yeah, that's a good trait.
I mean, if unless they don't, they might sleep it, but
I feel like you want to be countering their terrors, because if you can delay the game, mono blue terror is a deck, especially against the mono red madness version. I feel like if you're countering their terrors, the game goes longer. That just favors the madness deck way more than a will of terror.
I think that's true. I think you counter the terrors, and I think you also want to hold them as permission for when they want to fight against your draw twos. So you probably don't want to like jam your draw twos super early if you can help it. Which is also something that comes up a lot with these styles of decks of like, when do you cast your draw twos? And my general rule of thumb is if I have other stuff to do, unless I'm looking for something specific off the top of my library, I want to run through all of the material that I have in my hand first before I start to recharge and see what happens. Because I'm going to draw some cards randomly off the top of my deck in the next couple turns anyway. So I don't even know yet how that's going to influence the,
card
my
advantage.
sequencing decisions.
You mean my draw step?
Yeah, So
that's funny.
Is the draw step? Is this card advantage?
It is. Missing land drops. Is this card advantage? Powerful combination.
But yeah, I think those matchups can really go either way, and like you said, it really is about who knows what are the right things to prioritize, what are the right things to blast back and forth.
God, it's so hard to give you anecdotals on those tempo-y versus aggro where corners can change. It's so hard to say this is how it plays out, because damn, every game is so unique with these decks and so complicated in its own way. That's why it's fun. They're really fun to navigate on either side. I've played against fairies playing red decks. I've played fairies playing against red decks, and I've lost on both sides. I've won on both sides. It's very, very hard, and it's very fun.
I agree. I think that's part of the pull to decks like these, where you're kind of all in on one vibe, whether you're lightning bolt go face or attacking with a bunch of goblin guides. But there's still a lot of play to be had. Like, it's people make jokes about, someone being like the mono red player. Like, people have talked about me as that. They've talked about Mr. Bitter as that. Like, oh, they just play mono red. They're just mono red gamers. All you play is mono red. It's like, well, that's like, we definitely enjoy playing red and will play it whenever we have the opportunity if it feels right and the opportunity is there. But at the end of the day, there's a lot more going on to these red decks than might immediately be obvious. And I think we've talked about a lot of different niche positions that can come up for sure. So definitely not strategies to underestimate at any time. If red deck is good,
I feel low floor, very high ceiling. Like, you hear the play burn because you're new, but also, like, you're not going to pilot burn as well as a burn savant. That those 3% are like the difference between the people day twoing events with burn or top 8 challenges with burn.
Like the most famous example, and it's an example we've mentioned a couple times on the podcast before, just because it's so iconic, is a clip from an old Star City Games top 8 between Patrick Sullivan and Ross Merriam, and it's Legacy, and P. Sully is playing mono red burn, and Ross Merriam is playing this like green-white lands based like mid-range deck. And it's the perfect example of coil and strike from the red deck, because Ross misevaluates one thing and taps out essentially to think he's gaining an advantage, but out of nowhere, Patrick just flurries off a couple burn spells that he's been sitting on and just wins the game out of nowhere. And if Ross had like done something differently or had even
untapped,
just
if he would have untapped, said go, Patrick loses.
Right.
Like, actually, if he just passes the turn, he just loses the game.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. So
Go look that up. Find it. Sick. If you haven't seen it already.
Perfect example of coil and strike. There are some elements to that in fairies and stuff too, but I think the red deck, like waiting and burning someone out burning someone out and winning the game after they've put Weather the Storm on the stack feels so good.
Oh, that stuff's great. I agree. That's fantastic. Have you ever seen the Red Deck Wins video by Ristic Studies?
Oh, I love that video. It's so good.
That's a video I'll go back and rewatch. What a perfect video.
Yeah, really, really, really good.
Oh, man. His videos are works of art, really.
I agree.
I think I mentioned this story on the podcast as well, but Ann and I were playing against each other in our Boomer Cube, and this is probably my favorite game of Magic I've ever played in my life. I went turn 1 Goblin Guide attack, turn 2 Eidolon, swing with the Goblin Guide. Turn 3, I think she had a Vampire Nighthawk. I float 2 mana, or I pay 2 mana. I Flame Rift us, so I take 6, she takes 4, and then I sacrifice the 2 mountains and I Fire Blast her Vampire Nighthawk, and then I crack in there for 4, and then I like lava. No, I didn't have the Lava Spike that turn. It might have just been like a Lava Dart to phase 2 after that, which dealt me 2, dealt her 1. Just like life totals were dropping. But just again, it was just the Fire Blast, the Vampire Nighthawk. Yeah, Flame Rift, I'll take 6 to my own Eidolon.
Yeah, but you can do that. You can do that with these decks because
so sick.
Your life total is a resource. This style of deck really helps teach you that in a big way, and I definitely would recommend it for anyone who's been looking to play. I mean, I'm definitely gonna. You know what? I might just rent this right now and just get some reps in. Honestly,
I just texted Will. I'm like, do either of you have this deck to play to lend out? The Mono Red Madness, because we were talking about. I texted as we were recording. I'm like, man, I'm gonna ask him if he has this because it sounds fun. So now I'm in the mood to Fire Blast people now. That's for sure.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm either gonna be doing it in Pauper or IRL.
Yeah. Yeah. Viva la Resistance.
yeah. Viva la France. Yeah, for sure. Viva la Common Ground podcast.
No, I said Resistance. Did you think I said France?
No, but I did.
Oh, okay. I thought you said France. I was like, what?
Yeah, no, Viva la Common Ground podcast, dude. With that note, leave us a 5-star review. Do it now.
Yeah.
Pause it. Pull over, put your hazards on, leave us 5 stars, give us a review, write some words.
As long as it's
with your
safe
friends,
to
your
do
family.
so.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, as long as it's safe. I guess. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us to us at commongroundmtgpod@gmail.com, or you can join our sick Discord where you can message Burn Savants themselves, as mentioned, Mr. Bitter, Thomas Gunn, or The Holden from
Bitter just played the rally deck at the event they all went up and played on this past Saturday up in Murray. Yeah, hope everyone up in Murray had a great time. Hope everyone at the Upstate New York Pauper Open had a great time. They had their second event. Sounds like it went really, really well. A lot of really great Pauper events popping off.
I wanted to ask more about that. I felt so bad. This whole week, I worked like Monday through Friday. Worked today, Sunday. We drove to Alabama at like 6 a.m. and cleaned. And then my lady friend moved apartments. So I was helping her move Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So just been like constantly just moving, and I'm not even unpacked myself completely from my move.
Yeah, I had a pretty busy work week.
Oh,
myself.
So tired. Yeah, which is nice. I feel great, like in a weird way, like exhausted, but like, man, I like having busy weeks. It makes me feel accomplished. You know.
Yeah.
Like makes me laying down feel good. So just I meant to. Yeah, but I guess all that I'm saying, I meant to been keep it up more on the Discord, but damn. I am out of Rin's resolves.
That's all right. You'll have to go get some reckless impulses.
Yeah, I guess. I
have a couple of those for the rest of the night.
Reckless impulses.
Not too much. I might go down to the pool. We'll see. Yeah. We're gonna start collecting. We have a handful of questions that I have organized that folks asked a while ago that we didn't quite get to. Some of them are not like as relevant, unfortunately. Like some questions about sets that have passed, but we did do set. We have an episode that comes out for every set, and then also a couple of questions about decks in the brood scale meta that have kind of we've obviously been past that time. So apologies to anyone whose question we missed back then. But I scoured through and I collected any ones that still make sense for us to answer based on their context. And if anyone else has any mailbag questions for us to talk to, I don't know about, it might be next week, it might be the week after, but I think we're going to do a little mailbag episode fairly soon here as we slowly creep up towards episode 100, my guy.
I know. I told y'all
That's
my
insane.
idea for episode 100. Y'all better start putting some work on that. I got mine starting going.
Got to get in there. Wonderful.
Go burn some people.
Yeah, go burn them up. Burn them up. It's awfully hot. It's hot enough. Go make like the sun and burn them up.
Yeah. Ugh. There's lightning bolt